Have you ever wondered what it was like to live way back when? Like all the way back to when there was no internet, no Wi-Fi, no social media? Like what the heck? How do these people even survive? I mean, I guess off bread and porridge. Hello, my name is Izzy, and you're listening to WJHS 91.5 The Eagle. Welcome to Media in the Making, a podcast where we look at the evolution of media from 1600 all the way to present day. In this podcast series, we ask, how have different forms of media evolved and changed culture? Media in the Making, where media and culture are always changing. Now let's take a step back in time. For this episode, we're going all the way back to the 1700s, a time period where they wore weird clothes and communicated through newspapers. And whether you remember this from your history class or not, we're going to be talking about the American Revolution. This time period was chaos. Us Americans were trying to break apart from Great Britain, also while trying to figure ourselves out too. I mean, it was actually crazy. So let's jump back all the way to March 22nd, 1765. The 7-Year War is happening and the British send troops to the 13 colonies. The British decide it's a good idea that if our people are in the colonies, let's make them pay. So the British put this stamp on various forms of papers, documents, and playing cards. They use this as a form of taxing them and making them pay so that the British troops can stay in the colonies. Then in March 1766, the Americans were like, yeah, you know what? We're done with this. So they got together and tried to repeal the Stamp Act. It worked. A little. After the years of protests, the British were like, well, yeah, I guess you can do that, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to create this thing called the Declaratory Acts. The purpose of this was basically to take control of the Americans and be able to make a bunch of laws through Parliament in all cases whatsoever. You can most likely imagine how this played out with the Americans. Then came March 5th, 1770, the Boston Massacre. A couple British soldiers during a mob shot and killed a few Americans. This set them off. So in December of 1773, the Americans came up with this great plan. They really said, I mean, you know, taxation without representation is not working for us. So let's go dump 342 chests of tea in the ocean. Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. News spread fast, and this group of men called the Continental Congress formed. This was a group of men, one from every state, coming together to basically make their own government for the United States. Then one fateful day in April, the real American Revolution kicked off. This battle was called the Battle of Lexington and Concord. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've probably heard the phrase, the British are coming, the British are coming. Yeah, that came from Paul Revere. He never really said that, but that's a totally different story. The British ended up winning this little war, along with the next war. They won that one too. This war was called the Bunker Hill Battle. Although they won both of those wars, they lost twice as many soldiers, and this impacted them a lot. In the end, those little battles we had made a huge difference in how the end of this war turned out. So we've all heard of the 4th of July. I mean, normally we celebrate it by throwing parties and lighting fireworks and dressing up in our country's spirit colors. But do you know why we're really celebrating it? Because on that date, the Declaration of Independence got ratified. This was a big deal back then. This meant that the American people were officially free from Britain. I can just imagine the newly formed American people jumping for joy when they heard the news or read it in the newspaper, that they were now a free country. Now imagine if this whole scenario happened in 2020. Imagine looking down at your phone and there's a notification from Twitter that says, America's now a free country, or getting a text from your mom that's like, honey, we're a free country now, yay! I mean, is that not how it would play out? Like, have you ever just sat there and thought about it? They had to get all their information from talk and newspapers. That would be so strange. We have it good living this day and age, just due to the fact that we can get information so fast. Like, yeah, dude, I want to know ASAP if my country is free. Who wouldn't? So with all this information I just shoved down your throat, I hope you piece together that without media, our country would be nowhere. I mean, the whole world would be nowhere. Also, remember that I am Izzy. And Media in the Making is brought to you by WJHS 91.5 and the Eagle Tech Academy media classes. Media in the Making, teaching you about the evolution of media throughout history and its effects on culture. For more from this